finds every dollar to address them, no matter the obstacles, no matter the odds. They surround our community's most critical problems. They fight for the education, financial stability, and health of every person, because change doesn't happen alone. We have one life, and we must live united. Together, there is a way. Donate today by visiting MissoulaUnited.org.
Thank you for making Polaris America's best-selling off-road brand. During the Polaris Great American Thank You event, financing is as low as 3.99% and rebates go as high as $3,500. Live life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle everything from mountains to mud holes in a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger or elevate your adventure in a versatile Polaris General. Now is the time to get the season's best deals on America's best-selling off-road lineup with financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months and rebates up to $3,500 during the Polaris Great American Thank You at Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. All the best machines, gear, apparel, and accessories to enjoy winter this year are at Kurtz. Go check out their 2020 snowmobile inventory right now and all the clothing, helmets, gloves, hats, and jackets to keep you safe, warm, and looking great at Kurtz Polaris and KurtzPolaris.com. Rebates valid in U.S. through 12/31/19 on new 2016 through 2020 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and drive.
This holiday season, do it right. Get the gifts that last a lifetime. Trailhead is the perfect place to find cross-country skis that will last a decade, clothing that will look as good in 10 years as now. Or how about a new Winston fly rod for that special person on your list who would rather be fishing than anything else? Trailhead Family of Stores offers the top of the very best in quality clothing, gear, and equipment. At the Trailhead, we have gifts for boating, camping, fishing, backcountry and cross-country skiing, as well as hiking to stand warm around town. Trailhead Family of Stores has you covered.
In the Army National Guard, family means everything.
Our parents, they were really supportive that all 5 of us would join. I got my education because of the Guard. I got to travel a little bit and experience a whole different culture. It helped me get my job, helped me pay for my house.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard instills pride that you and your family will share. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about part-time service. Sponsored by the Montana Army National Guard, aired by the Montana Broadcast. This station.
Local Missoulian Hokato Eastman is in urgent need of a new automated wheelchair. His current chair is very old, causing life-threatening pressure sores. Hokato's green chair would allow him to be more independent and to stand for the first time in 20 years. Please help Hokato gain dignity, health, and quality of life. We hope that you sincerely consider giving money to this worthy and essential life-saving cause. Stop by the Hope Center or find his GoFundMe campaign at thehopecenter.us/wheelchair to donate. Let's get Hokato this chair, Montana.
The HIP Holiday Market is back, celebrating its 11th year. Support Lowell students and teachers while shopping for great holiday gifts from over 50 local artists at Lowell Elementary School. Saturday, December 14th from 10 till 4. Enjoy live music, tasty treats from their renowned bake sale, the Big Sky Grub Truck, prize drawings, a visit from Santa, and all kinds of holiday cheer. It's the 11th annual HIP Holiday Market on the 14th from 10 till 4 at Lowell Elementary, 1215 Phillips Street. The HIP Holiday Market is back.
Registration for Kiwanis basketball is open now through December 18th. Kiwanis basketball gives middle school boys and girls an opportunity to compete on the basketball court in an environment that is fun and promotes good sportsmanship. It is a free program that is supported through the fundraising efforts of the Kiwanis Club of Missoula. Visit MissoulaKiwanis.com for info and to register.
Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD, Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula.
Hello, Montana. Four quarterfinal games, 4 questions. award finalist nationally, and Brian Reeves, the play-by-play man for Austin Peay, going to join us to talk about Austin Peay and perhaps also Jay Hill. It is Tutela Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio. Outstanding to be with you on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Hope you are having a wonderful day. Thanks for letting us spend some of it with you. We appreciate that. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web as well, 1029 ESPN.com. You go there, you listen live on the Listen Live tab. It's called a stream, and it's there thanks to Opportunity Bank. Your local bank, your opportunity. If you want to pick up the phone and call, you can do that too. 329-1899, 329-1899. The phone number, all guests join us via the Raggich Brothers RV phone line. Let's take a look at what we got in the show today. We're going to start talking just a little bit about the quarterfinals as a whole at the FCS level. One question about each game. Colter and I will chat back and forth and discuss that. Hopefully it will be enjoyable to you. We also will let you know about the Montana High School Football All-State selections, which were released earlier today. Who's in, what players from what teams are part of that All-State team. So great awards there. And then also at the collegiate level, FCS finalists, obviously among others, Dante Olson, a finalist for the Buck Buchanan Award. So we'll go through that stuff. At the top of the hour, looking to dive a little deeper into the Montana State Austin Peay football game. Brian Reeves, he does the play-by-play call for Austin Peay from there in Clarksville, Tennessee. So he's going to join us at the top of the hour and talk through that. We will also talk a little bit about FBS Bowls, people. FBS Bowls, yes. Why are we doing it there in the second hour? Because Colter won't be here. Because he's going to get out of here. He's going to go down to practice, interview a couple of players from the University of Montana. And so while he's gone, then we can do whatever we want around here. We don't have to be, under the thumb, under the grip of the mighty warlord Colton Nuanez when it comes to FBS football. And then also, hopefully at about 5:45, we're working out the logistics of this surrounding the Weber State practice. But Weber State head coach Jay Hill going to join us hopefully there towards the end of the show. Weber State hosting the University of Montana. Obviously, the last loss that Weber State took this season was to the Grizzlies in Missoula. They are looking forward to this game, as is Montana down in Ogden, the rematch, and the second time these two teams will play in the year. So we'll look forward to having him on as well. So there you go. There's our show outlook. It is brought to us by Shine Auto Detailing. Go online, get your car detailed, make an appointment right now. See all the pricing right up front. ShineAutoDetailing.net. Colter, how you doing, my man? Great to see you. Fantastic Tuesday here. It's okay. You don't have to talk to us about the bowl games. They're irrelevant.
Okay. I must say this, and you can try to remove.
Okay.
I think that there's great merit in bowl games for teams that are actually good. I think that any football game that has ever been played on a Tuesday is stupid.
Man, I think
there's just like the gross exploitation of college kids so that fat old men can have something to do during the holidays is just disgusting.
No.
And on the other hand, though, bowls that are attached to certain finishes in certain leagues that give cross league, for example, you finished third in the SEC or third in the Big Ten, and you played in the Citrus Bowl. Yeah. I'm all into that.
Okay,
give me Penn State versus Auburn or whatever all day. I just, if you're gonna have the other side, let's have a G5 playoff.
You don't want the SoFi Hawaii Bowl, Hawaii BYU? You're not into it?
You can point out specific games. Where
Louisiana Tech, Miami, Pitt, Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan in the Quick Lane Bowl?
That's dumb.
Boom!
You had me way more interested in BYU Hawaii.
Yeah. All right.
Regardless, all I'm saying is it's not as if I completely hate bowls. I just hate the prevalence of how many of them there are.
I know, but haven't we learned this yet? The best way to win an argument is to make a straw man and a caricature of your opponent and then crush him. That's what I do to you. That's why you'll never win. Because I watch too much cable television to not know how to win every argument we ever have by hollowing out everything you've ever said.
I mean, every argument you make is a referendum on yourself. It's your birthday. I can't be mean to you. So happy birthday, Ryan Tutel. You are not 40 yet. It is a miracle that you made it this far.
Isn't that true?
And you are the youngest spirited, oldest bodied 39-year-old I have ever met.
I take that as very high praise. I appreciate that. 4 questions, Coulter. Can we do this?
We can.
We got quarterfinal football in the FCS, and 2 Montana schools, fully a quarter of the quarterfinals are state universities from the University of Montana, or from Montana State, obviously, and the Grizzlies. Let's start with Montana Weber State. Here's the question: can Montana dominate Weber State twice? I think the wording of this question is very particular. I will start and I will say, first of all, if the questions are going to be formed with the word can, using this modal language, the answer is always going to be. You could ask me almost anything that isn't a logical impossibility, and I will say yes. I find it highly unlikely. In the spirit of the question, being charitable to the question, I'm going to say no. That Montana dominates Weber State twice. Could they win this football game? Certainly. Bobby Hauck said yesterday in his press conference how hard it is to beat a team twice in the same year. He's had that happen 5 times, that he's played the same team twice in a given year. And I believe he's 1-1 in all 5. Whether it was winning the first one and losing the second one,
yep,
or losing the first one and winning the second one, but he's never been 0-2 and he's never been 2-0.
Quick historical reminder, Hauck's first year as an assistant on Don Reed's staff in 1988, they beat Idaho and then lost to the Vandals. That was only the second time Montana had ever been to the playoffs. That playoff loss, Idaho was number 1 in the country. Smart move to move up after you were rolling like they were. Regardless, back in Bobby Hauck's first tenure as head coach here in 2004, they lost in Huntsville, Texas to Sam Houston State and then beat Sam Houston in the semifinals of the FCS playoffs to go to the national championship game. In 2005, they beat Cal Poly during the regular season and then lost to Cal Poly in the first round of the playoffs. 2008, they suffered their only league loss in a 4-year span at Weber State, but then came back and beat Weber in the playoffs in Missoula. So it's the exact opposite scenario as we have now. Weber State lost to the Grizzlies in Missoula and now gets a revenge chance in Ogden, just as the Grizz lost to Weber State in Ogden and got a revenge chance in Missoula. And then the last one was when he was at San Diego State with Rocky Long, and they lost to Wyoming in Laramie and then beat Wyoming in Laramie 2 weeks later in the Mountain West Championship.
One thing I want to ask Jay Hill when he's on at the end of the show today, and I didn't ask Bobby Hauck this yesterday because I don't think it makes sense, and you already know what the answer is going to be when you ask him this, but is there added motivation for Weber State because of the way the game went? And on one hand, maybe you want to say no if you're a head coach because it's the quarterfinals of the playoffs, and this, we all. But you said, I mean, when the brackets came out, what did Jay Hill say?
We want Montana. I mean, he sat down at his press conference after getting his butt whipped in Missoula, and he said exactly that. He said, "There's no question we got our butt whipped today. Hopefully, things can work out so we can play this team again." We fight and strive to cover everything objectively, but we still cover it from the angle of what most of our listeners want. We cover this from a Montana angle, a Montana State angle. Flip this and let's cover it from the Weber State angle for a brief moment to answer this question. If you analyze this from the Weber State perspective, Weber State got their very first punt of the game blocked. Montana scored 3 plays later. The next punt gets rolled back. Another special teams error. Boom, Montana's up 14-3. Then Devin Cooley pulls his hamstring. Their top corner, he's out.
Rashid
Shaheed, he's out after the first quarter. On down the line. Then all of a sudden you lose Justin Malone, the tight end, to a ACL injury. He hasn't been back since.
Well, in the post-game press conference, Jay Hill said, look, you don't make excuses. Whoever's got to play has got to play. But if you lose your 5 best players, it's going to have an effect. And look, I mean, I don't think that's crazy to say that. I don't think that's trying to, imagine that somehow you're trying to find a way to not take ownership of the game. These are facts about things that happened. Would it have changed the outcome of the game the way that game went? Probably not. But it is real. I mean, you're missing the best punt and kick returner in the country, who's also your number 1 or 2 wide receiver, your number 1 corner, and then a bevy of other starters. What happens? And maybe part of that is because you weren't the aggressor. You were. They were physically dominated in this game. Look, man, the Shaheed thing, his own guy rolled up on him. It happens. It wasn't because somebody made a great play. It's just wrong place, wrong time. That's football. But that game took its toll on Weber State a lot more than it did on Montana, and ultimately, you just taken as from a broad stripe. That's because Montana was the physically imposing dominant football team in that game.
No doubt. Weber State also had never been down by more than 7 points the entire season. Then they're down 21-3. I think you're just staring at a deficit that you don't really know how to handle. So to answer this question, can Montana dominate Weber State twice? I do believe that they can, because I think that Montana's style is the kryptonite for Weber State's style. Montana doesn't have to stack the box to stop the run. I know that naysayers will say, well, what about at Montana State? Montana State's gap scheme run game is way different than Weber State's. They basically just run zone. I should say just zone. Zone is one of the most successful ways of blocking the run. But Montana just matches up better against it. They can stuff the run just as they did. And the whole game plan to beat Weber State is to make Jay Constantine beat you. And with the pressure that Montana brings, they can just make Constantine melt down. Now, that said, the other thing that is sort of negated is that Weber State has not one, not two, not three, but 4 all-league defensive linemen, including 3 guys who got first team or second team. If you count the last 2 years, all 4 of these dudes were first-team guys at one point or another. I mean, George Tarlas did not start a game this year, and he leads their team with 9.5 sacks. So that's how prolific their DNs are, as well as their inside guys, too. That was negated because they were up so big. And so Montana, even with a little bit of a hobble, Dalton Sneed was able to run the ball a little bit more. The pass rush wasn't as big of a factor. So to me, so much about this game on Saturday is going to be getting out to a quick start. But here's the thing, I think if you're Weber State, here's how you spin it. We can't play worse than we played in Missoula. We can't have any more things go wrong, from execution to nerves to implosion to injuries. It all went bad for Weber State. I think you spin it like that. Hey, boys, we already played our worst game. Let's go play our best game.
By the way, I said that that Weber State's game against Montana was the last game that they lost, which is true. It's also the only that they lost this season against a FCS. So, that is one thing I think Montana fans should be cognizant of, is if you watched Montana Weber, and that's the only flavor for Weber you got, you go, I'm going to dominate Weber State this Friday. And like you said, is it possible? Certainly. Sure, it's possible. They're also the number 3 team in the nation. It's not by accident. It's not because people don't know what in the world is going on or what in the world happened in Missoula. In fact, Montana was the number 3 team in the nation after that game. So this is an outstanding football team, a very well-coached football team. And I think, it's going to be football parlance now, okay, contextualized. It's going to be a war. This is going to be an all-out just battle, which I thought it was going to be in Missoula, and it wasn't. It was a one-sided battle, is what it was. I think this will be a 2-sided battle on Friday.
The other factor here is that Weber State has been a top 5 team for several years in a row. Mm-hmm. They have, people forget they were the 2 seed.
Mm-hmm.
They have hit the ceiling this round of the playoffs 4 years running. Granted, one of those losses was to James Madison, who was the number 1 team in the country at the time, and they only lost him on a last-second field goal. But last year, Weber got ran out by Maine. Maine obliterated Jay Constantine. I think they had 8 sacks in the game.
Yeah, they got after, no doubt. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, going through the 4 quarterfinal playoff games in the FCS with one question about each. We are extrapolating a little bit. Let's go to the Montana State-Austin P game. Bozeman, Montana, 6 p.m. Friday night. This game, by the way, all 3 of the 4 games are on ESPN television platform. Montana State's game is not. It's on ESPN3. The reason it is on ESPN3 and the reason it is on Friday, from what I understand, is because of Bozeman's request, Montana State's request, to have the game moved to Friday because graduation is on Saturday.
Yep.
Now, listen, you got a lot of students graduating even in a December commencement at Montana State. They're in the Brick Breeden Fieldhouse. If you know the layout there, it's very close. There's a lot of shared parking and everything like that. And look, a university graduation is a big deal. I understand the logistical nightmare that would ensue if you had these two events happening on the same day or at the same time. I mean, crazy. So I understand that. I also, if there isn't a way to stagger them, like if you can move it a whole day, can you not move it a few hours? Could you not move up commencement to, I don't know what time it starts. Maybe it's a 10, 11 a.m. Couldn't it be at 9?
No.
Here's the thing, though.
No academic institution is going to move graduation. Even if it's a football school. It's not.
Sure it could. Why?
It could. It's not. Not happening.
Okay, here's all I'm saying, though. That's fine.
You have to remember that people that work on campus, by and large, don't like football.
That's not accurate. Not accurate. There's both end in this. Here's all I'm saying.
Is not at Montana State.
You have an opportunity to. What's the difference between being on television and being on ESPN3? Being exposed to everybody just be in virtue of being where you are, or being in a place where people have to come find you. I mean, you are reducing your audience by thousands of %. Isn't
it ironic, though, that even being on ESPN3 makes it easier to watch the games than when the Cats and the Grizz are on the road and it's not on SWX?
That's no doubt. But by the way, it's not just on. I mean, I think you have to have ESPN3. You have to be a plus, like a subscriber to get this, as opposed to every bar in America on a Friday night when there's no other football on. Why is it on this? This is the show. There's no college football. There's the Army-Navy game on Saturday. That's it. And these 4 games, and you took it off of a national platform so that you would not have this logistical conflict. And again, I'm not sitting here saying right, wrong, or indifferent, but what I am saying is you had an opportunity to have a stage that any university in America would just drool to have. What your game? That's it. That's all out there. And now it's going to be on online on a Friday night, and the only people that are going to see it are the people who are really actively engaged in what's going on. And that's what it could have been from a marketing, from a branding, from an exposure standpoint. There's
a whole other conversation we can have, and we'll do it later on this week, because I do think that it's been stupid and foolish that the NCAA, all the playoff games were at the same time last week except one. Why not stagger them?
Right.
Especially this time of year. And regardless, we'll get into it later on this week. Let's talk about this exact question, though. You have an Austin Peay team that's in the playoff for the first time ever, a team that has struggled mightily throughout its history, but then has somehow and surprisingly got it rolling the last couple of years. And now here they are. Guys that are seniors on this team, they went 0-11 their freshman year. And now they have Ohio Valley championship rings and 11 wins, and they're coming to Bozeman, Montana. They define the phrase playing with house money. Whereas Montana State, though, here's the ironic part. When you talk about the looming giant that is the tradition and legacy of your program, that is so omnipresent with the Grizz, because to chase one of the great seasons in school history, it's Final Four bare min, but more like FCS championship game appearance and national title. To be in that conversation, to be a part of the legacy of guys like John Edwards and Dave Dickens.
Yeah.
At Montana State, they're playing with house money too. You win this game, you're one of the great teams in the history of the school.
Here's the thing, though, to me for Montana State. You get, somewhat unexpectedly, a second home game, or at least from an upset that happened elsewhere. They have taken the next step of getting a bye, of obtaining an automatic bid to the round of 16, and now being in the quarterfinal, which is the furthest that they've been in terms of the playoff rounds under Jeff Cho. They're favored to win this football game. And if they win it, almost certainly, and we'll talk about it, they will have another chance to play North Dakota State. And nobody, quote unquote, wants to play North Dakota State. But if there's one team and one coach that does want to play North Dakota State, it's Jeff Choate. Because
I think that there's two.
Yeah,
Montana
well, right.
And Montana
yeah,
State.
I mean, maybe
Bobby
so.
Houck said his selection show, I'm mad we're not on the same side of the bracket as North Dakota State because I want to play it. But a lot of it was bloviating and boasting, but still, I think that both these schools.
But the difference is Montana State played and didn't lose, got blown out. I mean, got straight run out of the building in Fargo.
I mean, they gave up 3 100-yard rushes.
So the point is did they play their best game? Of course they didn't. We talked about some of the mental and physical just weariness of in going in that game. The point is is that game also exposed Montana State, and it showed Jeff Choate up close and personal the gap that existed between North Dakota State and Montana State and basically the rest of the country. And he wants to, I mean, his explicit goal is to close that gap to the point where there is no gap, and to have an opportunity to go head-to-head again with that football team gives you a chance to say, look at what we can do. Look at, no, we're not afraid of this juggernaut that is the Bison and all that. So I think it would be potentially a really fun and a hugely intriguing football game if it were to take place. And in that respect, this game is sort of a weird one to me for Montana State, because they do have the house money from the legacy standpoint to an extent that you're talking about. But I don't think the players feel that. I think the players feel like we got to go get this thing done so we can have another shot at the Bison. But when you're playing a team you've never seen before, you didn't even know Austin Peay was a school, and now all of a sudden you're trying to game plan for them, who just wiped Sacramento State, who, by the way, did beat Montana and did beat Montana State. This is a good Austin Peay football team. This is a very intriguing game, and I would say, you wouldn't say scary, but it is one that should command everybody's attention when it comes to Montana State getting ready for this football team, because they're a matchup for the Bobcat.
Yeah, the matchup element of it is very interesting because Montana State didn't play Portland State and they didn't play Eastern Washington this year, and those are two of the most mobile quarterbacks in the league. And Eric Berry and Davis Alexander are the two quarterbacks that remind me the most of Javon Craig. Montana State's defense has been so exceptional this season. I don't know how they match up against that style of guy. Conventional wisdom would say, well, because they have great personnel on defense. I mean, they just have a bunch of really good players. I mean, they got 5 all-league guys first-team all-league guys on defense if Troy Anderson could play. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll get into the logistical matchups, but I do think that the question is Austin Peay really hot enough to come in and knock off Montana State? My answer is no. But I'm just as blind to Austin. I've seen Austin Peay play one football game my whole life.
Right.
And they left no doubt.
They look pretty good, right?
2 more questions because I know we got to get out.
Yeah.
Number 1, Illinois State at North Dakota State. What has to happen for NDSU to lose? And conversely, will James Robinson live through Saturday? Because James Robinson is the exceptional running back from Illinois State. They had an injury at quarterback. They've given this young man the ball 80 times in the playoffs already.
37 times for 210 yards in a huge win over South Dakota State last weekend.
Rushed for 297 on 39 carries the week before.
So can the wheels stay on for another week?
He's obviously an unbelievably talented guy, but I just think that the guy's going to need an ice bath. If they give him 35 carries in the Fargo Dome, ouch.
The going into Fargo in any case is always going to be an uphill battle. You go in really very explicitly one-dimensional in your offense, that is a recipe to me for a disaster. I do not see a way in which Illinois State I wouldn't see a way anyway, but especially in this scenario, no. I mean, great as your running back could be, you're not just going to hand the ball off 45 times and beat North Dakota State. It's not going to happen.
Illinois State's exceptional on defense. They have one of the best pass rushes in the country, but Trey Lance is one of, if not the hardest quarterback in the country to sack.
Yeah.
Redshirt freshman from North Dakota State, he's got almost 1,000 yards.
Northern Iowa at James Madison, same question more or less. Northern Iowa coming off a great win over South Dakota State, and they head over to James Madison. Can they knock off the Duke?
James Madison is going to have a significant athleticism advantage in this game. James Madison is going to have a significant athletic advantage against every single team that they have gone all in on the FBS transfer route. They've done a really good job of getting guys that aren't necessarily problem guys that neck of the woods, you have so many programs that by and large have been pretty mediocre. So you got guys that could just be disgruntled with their situation and just want to win. I mean, think about how bad programs like Old Dominion and that whole little area, Virginia has struggled. Virginia Tech's not nearly as good as they used to be. So you can get all those ACC-type drop-downs from Maryland and that whole area. There's just programs that haven't been as good. And I think kids these days, you can sell winning to kids because if you win at a high level, You're on ESPN too, like James Madison is going to be. But on the flip side of this, Northern Iowa is really, really good on the lines, both their offensive and defensive lines. That gives you a chance against anybody. And also, Mark Farley is an FCS playoff veteran. I mean, he's been in the playoffs who knows how many times. He's been in Northern Iowa for 20-plus years. He's been in the playoffs a lot. So he knows how to navigate these sorts of games. And Northern Iowa, they are 0% scared to play an ugly game. I think that's the way to beat James Madison is just how they won last week, 13-6.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, keep it down, sit on the clock, make it ugly, force turnovers, do the best you can. So we'll see. I think James Madison is almost a 3-score favorite in that game, and I think that that's the right line. But I think Northern Iowa has a better chance of beating James Madison than Illinois State does of North Dakota State. Not some crazy proclamation there, but I just that's just what
I agree with you on that. There you go. One day, Tuesday. We're only 3 days away, man. It's crazy. By the way, want to let you guys know this is cool. We're excited about this. But Coulter and perhaps myself, but certainly the show, no matter what, going to be live Friday from the Rockin' R Bar in Bozeman, Montana. It's going to be a lot of fun to be down there doing. We never get to do the show on game days for crying out loud.
I know.
Because it's, Saturday is game day, and now it's on Friday.
Out there right now watching on the TV in Bozeman or other areas around Montana that might be coming to Bozeman.
Yeah. Swing by.
Out.
Yep, swing by.
I mean, the thing is, it's leading right up to kickoff. So if you want to drink, or they have great food there too. Hamburger, great hamburger. So come on down and see us.
Yep, come on down to the Rockin' R Bar and hang out as you get ready for playoff football on under the lights in Bozeman MT on Friday. Looking forward to that. We'll take a break on the other side. The Montana High School Football All-Star Selection, All-State Selection is out. We will go through these teams, who was on it and who deserved to be there, what do we like about it, and we'll get through that with you here right after this. December is winter prep month. What does that mean? The roads, salts, and sands, they wreak havoc on the paint and finish of your ride. Get it detailed from Shine Auto Detailing. Protect your car or truck from the harsh winter elements by having a premium exterior detail, which includes a ceramic coating final finish. When spring comes around, simply drive your car through the wash, and it'll look like it's been freshly waxed. If you care about your ride, protect it from the winter. This week only, you save $50 if you go in there. You get yourself signed up for detailing from Shine Auto Detailing. Save yourself $50. Call to schedule and just search Auto Detailing Missoula. Pick the one with over 100 5-star reviews online. ShineAutoDetailing.net.
Not all gift cards are created equal. The Montana Club gift card comes with more handcrafted breakfast, lunch, and dinner favorites than any other local card. Home-style breakfasts, perfectly grilled Angus steaks, piled high sandwiches, expertly mixed cocktails, local craft beers, and much, much more. This year, give Montana made. Buy in-store or at montanaclub.com. Give $100 in gift cards and get a $10 gift card free. It's easy. Happy holidays from everyone at your Montana Club.
Hey there, Colter Nuanez from your favorite daily sports talk show, Two Tell Nuanez. I'm here with Tom from Aspen Sound. Tom, last winter I got a sweet car starter. It's something I think everybody needs.
You know, Colter, I couldn't agree more, and my wife sure thinks so too. We've got a lot of sweet deals. We actually have it capable now where you can start it from your phone from anywhere you'd like. We have two-way remotes that'll confirm to you the vehicle started all the way down to our basic package starting at just $299 installed. Come on in and check us out.
Thank you for making Polaris America's best-selling off-road brand. During the Polaris Great American Thank You event, financing is as low as 3.99%, and rebates go as high as $3,500. Live life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle everything from mountains to mud holes, the legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger, or elevate your adventure in a versatile Polaris General. Now is the time to get the season's best deals on America's best-selling off-road lineup, with financing as low as 3.99%, APR for 36 months, and rebates up to $3,500 during the Polaris Great American Thank You at Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. All the best machine, gear, apparel, and accessories to enjoy winter this year are at Kurtz. Go check out their 2020 snowmobile inventory right now and all the clothing, helmets, gloves, hats, and jackets to keep you safe, warm, and looking great at Kurtz Polaris and KurtzPolaris.com. Rebates valid in U.S. through 12/31/19 on new 2016 through 2020 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and drive.
RJ Reagan opened up one place all of you. Those guys continue to live through our whether you're traveling, places, Yellowstone guys, jump into Jayco and experience that. You only wear a handshake means.
The HIP Holiday Market is back, celebrating its 11th year. Support Lowell students and teachers while shopping for great holiday gifts from over 50 local artists at Lowell Elementary School. Saturday, December 14th, 10 till 4. Enjoy live music, tasty treats from Maryland's Mom Bake Sale, Big Sky Westcott, Surprise Drawing, a visit from Santa, and all kinds of holiday treats. It's the 11th annual HIP Holiday Market, 14th, 10 till 4 at Lowell Elementary, 1215 Phillips Street. The HIP Holiday Market is back.
ESPN Missoula.
Good evening, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. The University of Montana football and women's basketball teams had departures over the past week. Grizz redshirt freshman wide receiver Jesse Owens and Lady Grizz junior combo guard Sammy Fatkin are no longer with their respective programs. Owens is a 5'9", 169-pound wide receiver. He earned Class AA Offensive MVP honors as a senior at Billings West. He hauled in 71 passes for over 1,100 yards and 13 touchdowns to help the Golden Bears to the state AA title. He was also a first-team All-State basketball player and Montana's Offensive Scout Team Player of the Year this past fall. He entered the NCAA transfer portal on December 5th, as first reported by Skyline Sports.
Fatkin, who is a former three-star recruit who began her career at the University of Arizona, left the Lady Grizz last week, Skyline reported, on December 6th. That was Friday. The Sammamish, Washington native played her freshman year for the Wildcats before transferring to Montana. She sat out the first semester of last season, but played in the second half, starting the final 15 games of the year. In 6 games this season, Fatkin played about 16 minutes per game, averaging 5.5 points per contest.
A pair of bareback horse riders from the Bitterroot Valley earned money at the National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas Monday. Caleb Bennett of Corvallis was 4th to earn $11,000, and recent Stevensville transplant Richard Champion was 6th. He got over $4,200.
The Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
All-state football selections have been made across the state at the prep level. Tell a little bit about that. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. SWX Montana Television. Outstanding to be with you here on this Tuesday evening. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the social medias, people, at 1029 ESPN on Twitter and Instagram. Also on Twitter at Gus Tutel. Yours truly, at Skyline Sports MT. This man over here, breaking news all over the place. Pay attention to that. You want to know what's going on? It is time now for our Prep Extra segment. It is brought to us by the Farmers State Bank. Farmers State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907. Coulter, we're not going to sit here. If you want to hear the exhaustive list in terms of everybody that's the unabridged list, it's a long one because it's the first team is actually double. It's like a double roster of kids that are playing. So, for instance, Tommy Malott, who is the offensive MVP, is first team, but so is Josh Ehrbacher, quarterback from Billings West. And so there's 2 guys on the first team all-conference or all-state football team. So it's a long list. There's a lot of kids that are on it. But not surprisingly, Tommy Malott did end up earning, by the way, MVP. And he is the quarterback from Butte, Montana. He's headed to Montana State. And, we watched him play in the state championship game. Obviously, that game didn't go the way that he wanted it to, but you see, why this kid is an all-state selection and now the MVP, which is outstanding. Asher Croy also playing in that football game. He is headed to the University of Montana from Bozeman. 333 yards, in that football game, the state championship game, in 3 scores. He was, unstoppable behind a really strong offensive line for Bozeman. And he is on this list as well. No surprise there. But, Coulter, you got a couple of guys I know that you have been keeping your eye on, keeping tabs on, that are headed to the next level and that are also on this list.
Yeah, highlight a couple kids in terms of their accomplishments for this year before they start their college careers, and then a couple other guys who I think are some big-time prospects. First of all, Jackson Lee was named first-team All-State as an athlete out of Missoula Sentinel. He's going to the Grizzlies. Raleigh Wooster, also a first-team All-State selection as an athlete. He's going to Utah State to play basketball out of Missoula Hellgate. One kid that I'm really interested in to see where he goes is DeMarcus Carr. He's a running back from Billings West. He's first team All-State each of the last 2 years. He is lightning in a bottle. He's so fast. To my knowledge, no one's pulled the trigger on it off. And I don't know why, because he has all of it. And so then you wonder, is it a grades thing? Because is he a non-qualifier or partial qualifier? Because the kid is, he's everything you want. He's not crazy big or anything, but big enough. 5'10", 195 probably, and he's a competitive sprinter, and he's got real deal speed. So Asher Croy, you mentioned him. Drew Deck from Glacier had a great senior year. He's coming to the Grizzlies. Connor Ryan for Billings West, he's going to Montana State. He was also first team All-State. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Connor Ryan was also first team All-State selection on defense. Carter Ash is a kid that I talked about extensively. He is a really, really good DB and punt returner. I don't know if he has craziest speed, but the kid had 10 picks, and he also took 5 punts to the house.
Pretty good.
That's the type of kid where I don't really care what he runs on the clock. Just get him in your program because you just develop him, right? If he's not fast enough now, it doesn't mean he's not going to be fast enough in 2 or 3 years. Just get him in there. I just thought, I watched him live twice. I thought he was exceptionally competitive.
Well, it's weird too, man. And this I think this applies at all levels, but there's speed and then there's speed, and some guys are just incredibly fast. And look, if you're at the NFL level, if you're a 4.3 something guy, that's what you are. Nobody's arguing this. But there's other guys who, because of their angles and their anticipation and all that stuff, they cover ground better than anybody else. And that's, you think about that from a defensive standpoint, but also some of these punt returners. Jerry Louis McGee is not going to win a sprint against a whole bunch of wide receivers in college football in terms of just getting on the mark and say, go. He's fast. There's faster guys. But there are. But there's
Jerry Louis McGee ran 4.41 his very first day at Montana. We'll see if he can do it in an AccuTrack, whatever. But I'm just saying, I know what you're saying.
But my point is,
Tremaine Johnson ran a 4.55 at the combine, and he is what you're saying is that, like Cooper Kupp, there's a great example. He ran 4.62 at the combine. It don't matter. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter.
No, and for a punt returner especially, your instincts combined with your change of direction capability and just your balance, that stuff is far more important than winning the foot race, and which obviously also matters.
A couple other guys I want to highlight. Dylan Rollins is the offensive lineman out of Missoula Sentinel, and he's the son of Josh Rollins, who played for Montana State, and his brother Byron Rollins currently plays at Montana State. But Dylan's been getting some pretty big interest. He hasn't gotten full-fledged offers yet from the big schools, but he went on a visit to Oregon State. He's been getting recruited by Arizona State. It's been Josh and I were talking about this because he's a friend of mine. I could not think of a guy that's from Missoula that went to a FBS program, a recruit for football. There's been guys that have gone for basketball, but I could not think of a guy in the last 25 years that have gone to a Power 5 for football. There's been guys from Montana that have certainly done it. But if Dylan can continue to progress, he's 6'5", 270 as a junior, so he's got the frame and the build. He's a really intriguing prospect. And the last kid I wanted to highlight is Kenneth Iden. He was the defensive player of the year as a junior out of Bozeman High. He's one of the most fascinating prospects that I've seen because his production is out of this world. He had 41 tackles. Both games I saw him play as a strong end, he had 15 tackles. 4 or 5 tackles for loss, multiple sacks. But he's 6', 225. And he's gotten looks and letters from Iowa State, and all around Montana. And he's self-recruiting himself amazingly. I follow him on Twitter. He's getting his name out there. He's getting his film out there. He's doing it all. But I just don't know what position he plays at the next level. So maybe he is a guy, though, because Brad Daly's only about 6'1", 225 pounds, too. We know what happened there. He got 40 sacks at Montana State, won the Buck. So we'll see what the kid does. But I love kids like him who are helping themselves. He's recruiting himself, and that's what you got to do this day and age if you're from Montana.
No doubt. Go ahead, check it out online. You can just Google Montana All-State Football and get the list there. But congratulations to all the kids out there playing across the state of Montana. It was a fun season on the gridiron. This is our Prep Extra segment. It's brought to us by the Farmers State Bank. Hey, how do you plan to finance Christmas this year? Forget those high-interest credit cards. Apply for a holiday loan at Farmers State Bank. Down on fast approval times and low interest and easy payments, OAC. That's from Farmers State Bank. Make your Christmas merry. Quickly, Coulter, before we go, we're going to come back talk about the Buck Buchanan Award and some of the guys at the Big Sky conference who were able to get it. But we want to give away a gift card to the people, right? Lolo Peak Brewery. We got $25 down there to go down there, get yourself a lunch. Maybe take somebody with you. Get the banh mi tacos. Have a nice cold one down there out of the brewery. $25 right now, 329-1899.
Chicken sandwich, delicious.
Oh, man.
Had it out there the other week. It's awesome. It's a great place for families, great place for holiday get-togethers. Go meet up with your friends out at Lolo Peak Brewery. Enjoy a beer, enjoy some great food.
And enjoy it on us.
329-1899.
Get high-interest credit card. Apply for a holiday loan from Farmers State Bank. Holiday loans feature low monthly payments that are easy to budget. On approval, you'll have the cash you need for holiday shopping, travel, whatever. Get the details and apply today. Farmers State Bank or Montana Bank. Like lender.
Hey, it's Coulter, and I'm here with Catherine from The Advocate. If you've been in a car accident or need help dealing with the insurance companies, you should give The Advocate a call. They can tell you if you have a case right over the phone.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to call, and we'd be happy to talk to you and assess your situation. You don't want to have to deal with contacting the insurance companies and setting up a claim. We can do that for you. We take the hassle out of the process, so you can just focus.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give The Advocate a call. 406-640-4444. Online, MontanaAdvocates.com. You deserve The Advocates.
Montana, we know shopping local matters. You may think you pay more for the quality of customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, locally owned, knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box store. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit 6, and online, selwayarmory.com.
At Florence Coffee Company, it's time to treat yourself with one of our limited-time holiday favorites. Taste the cookies in the kitchen with our gingerbread man latte, or tap into our creamy maple brulee. You can always rely on our classic eggnog, or pep up with our peppermint milk. Hot, blended, or even iced, our limited-time holiday favorites are here through December only. Come to any Florence Coffee location or go to florencecoffeeco.com.
Hey, boys and girls. Quick adjustment for you. We're first here going to talk to Brian Reeves. He's a play-by-play guy for Austin Peay. So he's going to join us, and then we will get to some of the award stuff later. But we had to have him in here a little bit earlier so that we could get through it. He's got a couple of prior obligations, and Coulter's also rolling out. So it's Del Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. We are broadcasting live, as always, from the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. We go now to the Rankish Brothers RV phone line. We welcome in the aforementioned play-by-play man for Austin Peay's football team. They're rolling into the quarterfinals, headed to Bozeman on Friday night to take on the Montana State Bobcats. Brian Reeves joins us from the ESPN in Clarksville. Brian, how you doing, man? Great to be with you. We appreciate you being with us.
No, I appreciate you guys being flexible. Nothing like planning out your sixth grade daughter's band concert prior to a radio hit. So got to make the wife happy. Mom ain't happy, nobody's happy. So I appreciate you guys being flexible with me.
Hey, we understand that. Plus, it's an hour later where you are anyway, and so you're starting to work into the family time there on that one. So I appreciate that. Although I would say, I'm sure your daughter's great at it and all that. Sixth grade band recitals showing up a little late isn't all bad, Brian. You know what I mean? That's one thing I've noticed over the years as I've been in attendance at these events.
Earplugs are in the pocket. Yeah. Back row will be occupied.
Very good. Well, hey, Brian, help us out here a little bit. I mean, Coulter and I watched the Austin Peay Sacramento State game last weekend. Completely impressive. And as you look at the schedule, this is an 11-win team, an outstanding club. But again, for a lot of people across the state of Montana, they don't know a lot about Austin Peay. We talked with Coach yesterday, and he was great and intriguing. But you, as a guy who gets to observe this, is very, calls the games and all that. What should we know about this football team and this program?
You should know that this is a program that 7 years ago owned the longest national losing streak on the FCS level at 0-38. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, you had a new president come into Austin Peay State University that laid the smackdown and put an emphasis on athletics across the board. 5 years ago, opened up a brand new football facility. Entered the Will Healy era, who made a commitment to go out and recruit and as vibrant as a young coach as you could have. So this roster has his fingerprint on it. But this team has the Hudspeth trademark. This is a gritty, tough, defensive-minded football team that can score points on you, and that's been the trademark all year. We rewrote the record book, 508 points scored so far this season, but the sixth-ranked defense against the run, top 15 national total defense. It's just been a ride that I never expected when we cracked the mic to open this season, but it's been a fun one to be a part of.
Brian, thanks so much for being with us. One of my favorite parts about covering the FCS playoffs is learning about schools and football programs from the other side of the country. And I had honestly never heard of Austin Peay until 2 years ago when Austin Peay had a really great season, and then I never had really watched them play, but then started prepping on them a little bit for my other gig at Skyline Sports when they were about to play Sacramento State. And, I thought playing a traditional Power and Furman that Austin Peay wouldn't even make it out of the first round, but then they did. But tell us just about...
Didn't make it out. Hammered Furman,
yes. Hammered Sac State. But tell us about just the school in general, because one of the number one things that jumped out to me was that Austin Peay was once upon a time in the Pioneer Football League. And if you know anything about the Pioneer Football League, really high academic institutions. What's the academic landscape like at Austin Peay? Where does it fit into the Clarksville community? What's the school like in general?
Well, let me remind you that when we were a Pioneer Football League team, we were a non-scholarship football program. We had an administration in the mid-'90s who wanted to drop football completely, but was convinced to allow us to play non-scholarship. So we still had some young men who basically came for no better term than the love of the game, and then reinstituted scholarship football in the late 90s and now have built it back to where we are today. We are the fastest-growing public institution in the state of Tennessee. Enrollment was just announced last week at over 11,000 students. That's a new high for this institution. We are very heavy on the academic side in the land of education. A lot of your public school teachers will come from Austin Peay State University, and we have an incredible nursing program. We get kind of an overflow from Fort Campbell, Kentucky, with a lot of military families, a lot of the military spouses. They'll come through Austin Peay. And their emphasis has always been on the nursing and the medical field. So we get a lot of byproduct from good old Uncle Sam bringing quality folks through Fort Campbell, as they're just about 20 minutes up the road from us. I will dare say, our Military Appreciation Day will rival those at West Point and across some of the academies. We have a deep love for our men and women who serve this country, and it's always been a great partnership with Austin Peay, and we try to spread that message as well.
Brian Reeves joining us. He's the play-by-play radio guy for Austin Peay's football team on an incredible run right now and really rolling through people. We kind of see the style that Austin Peay likes to have. Like you said, they're 6th in the nation against the run, holding teams about 91 yards a game on the ground, which is impressive. And you know, a really well-rounded football team as well. Talk to us about a couple individual players, though, that we should really keep an eye on and that we, you know, need to be aware of as we take a look at this game on Friday night.
Well, we're getting a team from Tennessee, so you know you got to have a great Tennessee name. And the first one that'll jump off the page, the defensive tackle, is Josephus Smith.
There you go.
5'9". Yeah, there you go. 5'9", 300 pounds. He's 5'9" in tall cleats on concrete. That's a very generous number. But the thing about Josephus, he rewrote the record book for us. 17.5 tackles for loss this season. He is as quick off the snap of a football as any interior lineman I've seen in a long time, regardless of the level. He's not going to outrun somebody. He's not going to chase down a back sideline to sideline or go beat somebody to the boundary. But you get him off the ball, he disrupts the backfield, and that's been a big piece to him. And then the second piece to us is on the defensive back end. That's Cordell Jackson. Finished 6th today in the Buck Buchanan Award. 7 interceptions on the season. We questioned why teams would throw at him throughout the season. Cordell's just a shutdown guy. 5th on this team in tackles, has 2.5 sacks on this year as well. Just one of those guys that's not afraid to stick his nose in and play run defense as well as go cover your best receiver. So with Josephus on the front end, Cordell on the back end, this defense has been stout all season long.
You know, Mark Hudspeth there, I think it was after the second touchdown, but still early in the game, first quarter, says, run it back. We're running an onside kick, unexpected. It's not a trick play, but it's a surprise play. Certainly a high-risk, high-reward deal that worked out for his club, and you get a 21-0 lead, 10 minutes into the football game. Is that something that he did he bring that out just for one time, or is that something that he's about and always looking, maybe to do a little bit of the unexpected? And what are you looking for in that respect on Friday?
That was the first onside kick attempt we had this season. It's also the first onside kick attempt we've had in over 3 years. So that just tells you the idea of the guy. We also threw out a lot of wild gov or wildcat, as it's normally known, formation where Javon Craig, who is our starting quarterback, would slot out as a receiver, and Benico Harley, who actually came to Austin Peay as a quarterback, but in a very crowded quarterback room found himself as more of an H-back receiver type. So we've ran some different things. We'll throw some things at you offensively, but that's the point where we are. This is uncharted waters for Austin Peay State University. We're going to the third round of the FCS playoffs. We've never been this far. We never made the playoffs. We hadn't won an OVC championship since 1977. So at this point, why not? Why not just play to the wall and give them everything you got, throw a formation out. If it works in practice and you like the way it looks and it gets these young men energized and fired up, because let's be honest, this is week 15 or 16 of the games, and plus your practice, plus your summer conditioning, these guys are exhausted. So whatever you can do, put a little pep in the step and get life on the field, you do it. And as you said, up 14-0, take the onside, and let's not forget the importance of that drive. That drive had stalled, and it was 4th and 2. Governors go for it on 4th and 2, and it turns into a 40-yard touchdown run for Benico Harley, the backup quarterback, the wild gov, if you will, to put us up 21-0. And at that point, I'm not sure Sacramento State knew how to answer what we were throwing at them.
You mentioned Josephus Smith. Love that guy. He popped on film right away to me when I was watching the Sac State game, and then I went and looked at his mug shot. He's got the big beard. He's got a future in pro wrestling, I think. I want to ask you, though, about the coaches that have laid the foundation for this thing, because you mentioned Will Healy, and people around Montana, if they dig into their memory bank, will remember Will Healy as the quarterback for the Richmond Spiders, the year that the Montana Grizzlies lost in the 2008 National Championship game to Richmond. And Will Healy had one of the most rapid rises through the college football ranks. I mean, he was the head coach at Austin Peay when he, maybe even in his late 20s, but certainly early 30s, and they got the University of Charlotte job, and he's got them in a bowl game. But first of all, what sort of foundation did he lay for this run? And second of all, how has Mark Hudspeth been able to come in his first year and engineer this great run by Austin Peay?
Healy's impact on this program was going into the living room and winning the recruiting war. And that's as plain and simple as I can say it. We are in the Ohio Valley Conference. The giant, as you said, in the Ohio Valley Conference, Jacksonville State, Southeast Missouri, Eastern Kentucky, who has a couple of national championships at this level. So we've always been trying to get to the top of that mountain. defeated all three of those teams this year. But that impact comes from Healy's ability to go into a living room, and win a recruiting war. For that same guy that would have I'd have never thought about Austin Peay. I'm going to Eastern. I'm going to SEMO. I'm going to Chat. I'm going to Wofford or Furman or somewhere like that. Now they're coming to Austin Peay. So the quality of football player got dialed up with Healy and his. If you've ever met Will or you've seen him, that's him. He is 110% every breath of the day, and he's full bore, full go. Now you've got Hudspeth, who's got a plentiful cabinet, if you will, and is able to take his X's and O experience that maybe Will is still learning. He can win the living room, but still got some work to do on the field. Hudspeth has taken that, his on-the-field knowledge, with his runs at North Alabama in the playoffs, his success at Louisiana, Lafayette, now just Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, and put it on this governor stamp, and that's the difference. Taking the talent that Healy built and now teaming it up with what Hudspeth and his staff have been able to do, that's made the difference for Austin Peay.
Brian, we sure appreciate you being with us. Best of luck tonight at the concert. That's the big one on the docket, and then travel safe up to Montana. We'll look forward to this game on Friday. It's going to be a blast, all right?
I'll be glad for you guys to turn the thermostat up a little bit when we get on the plane Thursday and head that way. But, yes, I'm going to see my favorite French horn player and have a great family night. Guys, thanks for having me with you. Happy holidays, and I appreciate it.
Same to you. Appreciate you. Brian Reeves joining us. Again, the voice of the Austin Peay Governors football team, does play-by-play for them on ESPN in Clarksville, Tennessee. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour 2 straight ahead. We start with the Buck Buchanan finalists, one of which is a finalist for a second time. I'll tell you all about it right after this.
Hi there. It's Les Schwab Tire. Well, more like Les Schwab alignment, brakes, shocks, wheels, and tires. Now, some tire places don't offer. They only sell tires. And we're not sure how they sleep it, because all those services affect things like safety and stopping. That's why we offer more tires to help keep you safe. Stop by or book an appointment at LesSchwab.com. Les Schwab Tire, doing the right thing. 1950.
On Russell, across from the fairground.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up.
Joining your friends for a little get-together? Stop by your local Town Pump. Pick up a 12-pack of Bud, Miller, and Coors cans, 2 for $20, mix and match. While you're there, you may as well grab a bag of Ruffles Double XL chips, 2 for $6. Need it fast? Stop by Town Pump. There's one right down the road from you.
Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
If you're looking for the perfect Christmas gift, think spicy. 'Tis the season for seasoning with gift packs from Alpine Touch. The 4-spice pack includes 4 Big Mountain flavors for just $19.99. Go to alpinetouch.com right now for gifts sure to keep mouths watering year-round. And if you plug in the code ESPN at checkout, you'll get a free bag of Alpine Touch sunflower seeds. From gift packs to gift cards to the Grand Slam package, Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift for anyone on your list. Go to alpinetouch.com right now to order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Last May, Ten Spoon Winery partnered with the Historical Museum with Hello to Old Missoula, Missoula's History Through Art, an event where attendees voted on their favorite piece of art, which would become the next Ten Spoon wine label. Votes are counted, and Megan Odell's piece depicting the 1990s Roxy Theater fire was the winner. Now you can drink wine for history, as Ten Spoon is dedicating a portion from every bottle of Roxy Fire wine sold to the Historical Museum. Find it now at local retailers or call 406-549-8703.
If you are hurt or disabled, you may be entitled to benefits from an insurance company. I'm Chris Hellman, an attorney at Clark Court. Our Missoula firm specializes in worker compensation, personal and Social Security disability. There are many unknowns when injured or disabled. The other side is fighting hard. You should too. Call Clark Court Law 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkcourtlaw.com. Again, 728
Oscar Montana, KKPU HD
Good evening, Ryan Tutel, Colter Nuanez. Here are some sports news for you. The University of Montana football and women's basketball team had departures over the past week. Grizz redshirt freshman wide receiver Jesse Owens and Lady Grizz junior combo guard Sammy Fatkin are no longer with their respective programs. Owens is a 5'9", 169-pound wide receiver who earned Class AA offensive MVP honors as a senior at Billings West. He held in 71 passes for over 1,100 yards and 13 scores to help the Golden Bears to a state AA title. He was also a first-team All-State basketball player and Montana's Offensive Scout Player of the Year this past fall. He entered the NCAA transfer portal on December 5th, as first reported by Skyline Sports.
Fatkin, a former three-star recruit who began her career at the University of Arizona, left the Lady Grizz last week. Skyline Sports reported last Friday. The Sammamish, Washington native played her freshman year for the Wildcats before transferring to Montana. She sat out the first semester of last season, but played in the second half, starting the final 15 games of the year. In 6 games this season, Fatkin played about 16 minutes per game, averaging 5.5 yards per contest.
And finally, a pair of bareback riders from the Bitterroot Valley earned money at the National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas Monday. Caleb Bennett of Corvallis was 4th. He earned $11,000, and recent Stevensville transplant Richard Champion was 6th. He got over $4,200. Ty Erickson of Helena was 7th, and Brian Chambers of Butte was 12th in steer wrestling.
Clark Fork Law.
Hey, boys and girls. Welcome back. Hour number 2. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the first hour of the show, check it out on the podcast. Podcast available thanks to our friends at the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Get it wherever you get your podcast. Just search Tutel and Nuanez, download it, and listen.
2 notes. First of all, in the Sports Center, Bridger Chambers, he lives in Butte right now, but people that are listening on our Western Montana airwaves, radio style, will probably recognize Bridger Chambers. He's from Stevensville. So he's Steve I native. Actually played basketball at Montana Western.
Really?
And now is a steer wrestler. I'll tell you what, Bridger Chambers is pretty good in the post.
Yeah.
When you can jump off a horse and wrestle a animal.
Yeah.
Pretty good. I'll tell you what, Ty Erickson, who's about to be a 3-time world champion steer wrestler.
Right.
We talk about all these middle linebackers and D tackles and stuff. You want to see a prototype athlete? I mean, this guy gets off his horse. He is 6'5", 250, probably never lifted a weight in his life.
Well, why would you if you're lifting a cow?
Indeed.
Yes. Colter, I know you got to run. You're going to go down to practice and interview a couple of guys, but wanted to run through some of these national awards with you in the FCS level. The finalists for the Buck Buchanan Award and the Walter Payton Award are out, and among them, linebacker Dante Olson for the Montana Grizzlies. He's a finalist for the second time in the Buck Buchanan Award, and Kevin Thompson, Sac State's quarterback, and also Tutel Nuanez correspondent throughout the year, California correspondent. Appreciate him very much. He's a finalist for the Walter Payton Award as well.
Case Cook is worth mentioning, also a finalist for the Walter Payton Award as well. They announced 4 finalists, which means the voting up top was closer. A couple of points I think that are worth making. First of all, you want to know the quality of the quarterbacks in the Big Sky Conference? Eric Barrier from Eastern Washington was 3rd team all-conference in the Big Sky and was 5th in the Walter Payton.
Right.
So, I mean, you got a guy out here,
which isn't just quarterbacks, people. That's all offense.
You got a guy out here in Case Cook who might straight up win it, being the 2nd team all-conference quarterback in his conference.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So I'll tell you this, full disclosure, I voted for Kevin Thompson.
Yeah,
Kevin Thompson threw 35 touchdowns, rushed for another 10 during the regular season. He was as good as anybody in the country, and I think that combined with the level his team won at, combined with the fact that it was an absolutely historic season for Sacramento State, he got my vote. But I do think that Pete Guerrero from Monmouth, who, if he would have had his average game in Missoula, would have had even bigger numbers, because he rushed for 1,600-plus yards while rushing for about 45 yards in Missoula in September.
Yeah.
He could have really – he could have been even gaudier numbers if he would have had a little bit more. But then Trey Lance is an interesting one, too, because he doesn't have the throwing numbers of Cookus or Thompson, but he's got almost 1,000 yards rushing, and NDSU has won 34 now games in a row. How crazy is that? NDSU broke the record for the all-time winning streak in FCS history last week, and no one's talking about it because they broke their own record.
I mean, I
remember the first time, though, when they were chasing, I think the previous record was 30 straight wins, and it was big news all the time. And now it's like, oh, you won 34 in a row? Oh, you won 33 in a row 2 years ago, so congratulations.
You know what it is? UConn women's basketball.
Man.
I mean, they did that same thing with like 94 wins in a row, or maybe even over 100. I can't remember what it was. But people are like, hey, congratulations. You beat yourself for the third time in that very same category. Yeah, and it is. It's totally impressive, but not nearly as notable as whenever they lose whatever the next game is that they ever.
In terms of the Buck Buchanan Award,
yeah,
I think that sacks are a much more critical and telling stat than tackles broadly. I think that tackles are kept at an inconsistent factor across the country.
Yeah.
What constitutes an assist? What constitutes a solo? How many tackles are you going to rack up? It's vastly different in press boxes across the United States of America. A sack is a sack is a sack is a sack. And a sack is going to impact a drive. It's going to put the offense behind the stick. That said, the two guys that are finalists along with Dante Olson, Sonny Lachey and Rondell Carter, those guys are both great players. They're both defensive ends. They both had good seasons. I think they both had 11 to 12 sacks. Not as many as guys like George Obino, Bryce Stirk, or even Eli Menser from Albany, who played in Bozeman last weekend.
Right.
But still good seasons. The CAA, which James Madison's a part of, was not as good this year as they traditionally have been. They're still a solid league, but not as good as the Missouri Valley or the Big Sky.
Yeah.
The Ohio Valley, the Southland, which Nichols is in, also not as good as they traditionally are. I think even though I feel this way about tackles, throw it all out. You can talk about Dante Olson if he's stacking tackle numbers with assists, whatever. In terms of being able to play multiple gaps at once, in terms of being able to impact the game in literally every avenue of it, and in terms of being able to make plays that no one else I have ever seen at this level be able to make, Dante Olson is the number one eye test player I have ever covered. I mean, Montana has had a long string of phenomenal linebackers, including multiple guys like Caleb McSurdy, Jordan Tripp, Brock Coyle, who played in the NFL. Dante Olson is better. He's not only better, he's way more productive. And some of the stuff last week, Southeastern Louisiana threw a little screen pass to the flat to Devontae Williams, who by all accounts was their fastest player. Dante Olson tracked him down from behind for a 3-yard gain. There's no special stat for that. But that's a 13-yard gain against anybody else in the country. A one-on-one with your Mike linebacker. Right. There's no chance he's catching that guy. And he caught it. And it's just plays like that where you're just like, man, this kid is unbelievable. He had that play, I guess it was the Weber game, where it was an outside bubble screen, and he went underneath the block. Ty Gregorak described this exact play, went underneath the block, and then beat the guy to the spot on the sideline. It's impossible that you can make that play, and he makes those plays. So even though I think tackles are an overrated stat, throw that out the window. Dante Olson's the best player. He's the best player in the country. There's no way you're convincing me there's guys that are better than him. So I voted for Dante Olson.
Okay. Coulter, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening, friend. And good luck. Get us some good audio, and we'll play it for the people the rest of the week. We appreciate it. Sutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Take a quick break. Want to remind you here in about 35 minutes from now, Jay Hill, who is the head coach of the Weber State Wildcats, is going to join, it was us, and now it's me, but talk about the Grizz Weber State game, Grizz Wildcats 2 this season, and get you set for that. But next, got a bunch to go through. We're going to talk about, first of all, the full schedule for the FCS weekend, where you're at, where the games are. We'll also get into a bunch of bowl games. There's, I got a list. It's small font. What are we at, like 30-something, right? 33, something like that, bowl games. What's good, what's bad, what needs to change. And we waited for Coulter to leave so I could just tell you the truth without him encumbering me all the time, because they're all great.
Hi there. It's Flash Schwab Tire. Well, more like Flash Schwab alignment, brakes, shocks, wheels, and tires. Now, some tire places don't offer. They only sell tires. And we're not sure how they see it, because all those services are excellent tires and shopping. That's why we offer more tires to help you. Stop by and look at what's at FlashSchwab.com. Flash Schwab Tire. Doing the right thing.
On Russell, across from the fairground.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters. You may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, locally owned, knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. firearms and accessories. Save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit 6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up.
Looking for something refreshing but different? Stop by your local Town Pump. They've got the perfect refresher. White Claw, Truly, and Smirnoff Seltzer 12-pack cans, $14.99. And Cook's 1.5 liter, only $10.99. Find all your refreshments at Town Pump, right down the road.
Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
Have you been in an accident and have no idea what to do? I'm here with Catherine from the Advocate Injury Attorneys.
Unfortunately, people are injured in accidents every day, and dealing with the insurance company can add even more pain to an already bad situation. That is where hiring the advocates can help. Let us guide you through the process and take on the hassle for you so you can focus.
If you've been injured in an accident, give the Advocates a call, 406-640-4444, or online at MontanaAdvocates.com. The Advocates.
Good evening, Ryan Tutel. Happy to be with you. Here's a little sports news for you. The University of Montana football and women's basketball teams had departures over the past week. Grizz redshirt freshman wide receiver Jesse Owens and Lady Grizz combo guard Sammy Fatkin are no longer with their respective programs. Owens, a 5'9", 170-pound wide receiver, earned Class AA offensive MVP honors as a senior at Billings West. He hauled in 71 passes, over 1,100 yards, and 13 touchdowns to help the Golden Bears to a state AA title. He was also a first-team All-State basketball player in high school, and this past fall was Montana's Offensive Scout Player of the Year. The NCAA transfer portal, he entered it on December the 5th, as first reported by Skyline Sports. Sammy Fatkin, she's a former three-star recruit who began her career at the University of Arizona. She left the Lady Grizz last week. Skyline Sports reported that on December 6th. The Sammamish Washington native played her freshman year for the Wildcats before transferring to Montana. She sat out the first semester of last season, but played in the second half, starting the final 15 games of the year. In 6 games this season, Fatkin averaged 16 minutes and 5.5 points per game. A pair of bareback riders from the Bitterroot Valley earned money at the National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas Monday. Caleb Bennett of Corvallis was 4th, and he earned $11,000, while Stevensville transplant Richard Champion was 6th and earned over $4,200. Also, Ty Erickson of Helena and Bridger Chambers placed in steer wrestling. Welcome back. It's Tutel Nuanez with really just Tutel. Happy to be with you here on this Tuesday evening. A great day it is. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you want to call, 329-1899, 329-1899. The phone lines are open, so feel free to get in here in the next 10, 15 minutes. You want to talk about some bowl games, we can do that. 329-1899. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. If you would like to listen live, and maybe it's easier on your phone, your device, your tablet, maybe you're trying to be a little more clandestine about this thing, you go online, 1029ESPN.com. You can listen via the stream. The stream is available thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. All guests join us. Did I say this already? via the Range Brothers RV phone line, including, by the way, in about a half an hour from now, Jay Hill, the head coach of the Weber State Wildcats, who we will try to get on here after practice. We're working with a little bit of thin margins on the logistics here. Practice going to get over, trying to get it done before the show ends at 6 o'clock. So try and catch Jay Hill right at the end here on a short week, and obviously Weber State preparing for Montana on Friday night, 8 p.m. kickoff. I want to set this up for everybody, just so you know, because again, it's such a funky weekend of football. There are five college football games this weekend. Okay, that's it. That's all. 4 of them are FCS quarterfinals. One of them is the Army-Navy game on Saturday. That game, by the way, 1 o'clock kickoff, Army-Navy on Saturday on CBS television. The other 4, 3 of them are being played on Friday night. It's a doubleheader on ESPN2. If you're wondering why the Grizz game is so late, is because it is it's a television, right? Northern Iowa is at James Madison at 5 o'clock on Friday night. That will be followed immediately by Montana at Weber State at 8 p.m. Friday night. Okay, they are occupying the late window. Austin P is at Montana State. That is at 6 o'clock on Friday on ESPN3. Again, Montana State requested this game to be moved from Saturday to Friday because of graduation on Saturday. They accommodated that request for the game to be played, but it will not now be on ESPN television as such. It will still be on the ESPN online there on ESPN3. And then on Saturday, the other quarterfinal, Illinois State at North Dakota State. That's at 10 a.m. on ESPN television, regular old ESPN, ESPN the Uno, as I like to say. So there you go. We had a little conversation. We are going to get into these bowl games in just a moment, but at the press conference earlier this week, had a little, small conversation, I guess you could call it, with Bobby Hauck about this game being at night. Okay, I love night games, love them. Coulter for college football hates them, and I'll give you one guess what Bobby Hauck thinks about night games. Give this a listen.
Playing Friday, like you said, it's a shorter week now, but it is for them as well.
They don't have to travel.
That's true. But do you like playing a night game?
No.
Why not?
I think night games suck. I'm honest today. I'm telling the truth today. I think college football is a day game, a Saturday afternoon game.
Okay. I mean, pretty to the point and fine. You think that night games suck? That's all right. I don't exactly know why. I do understand when it's finals week, it's already a compressed week, and now you're moving the game from Saturday to Friday for the sake of television. That's a bit of a struggle. We'll have a lot more sound from Bobby Hauck tomorrow. One of the things he did mention, though, is that he loves the fact that they're on ESPN, too. He thinks it's big for the branding of the school, branding of the university, branding of the football team, and exposure in general, and he's absolutely right. I mean, having a game that's just available to be watched while you're sitting around, every bar in America on a Friday evening or at your house or wherever you are, as opposed to having to go find a game on an online platform, even though it's a major online platform like ESPN, it's a much different deal. It's just a much different deal. People will absorb that, see that, note that when they ordinarily never otherwise would have, by the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, over the course of Friday evening. So that is, again, we went back to our conversation about Montana State versus Austin P, why there's a major loss for Montana State, the entire institution, to be moving this game from the Saturday to the Friday and therefore to no longer be on ESPN or ESPN2. When it comes to the night games, though, look, okay, Saturday, college football is a Saturday day game. Traditionally, that's the case. Obviously, television has changed that significantly. You got MACtion on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, for crying out loud, just so that they can have, a piece of the national spotlight. You got Pac-12 After Dark. And then, of course, the game of the day is usually the primetime game on, several of them, but often on the ABC, ESPN, game that Fowler and Herbstreit are doing. It is it is the matchup in the country on that given day, and it's played in the evening, and that's when people are able to watch it and consume it and take it in. And so from that standpoint, I think having a night game on a Friday night when you got there will be one game and one game only going on while Montana is playing Weber State, mostly in the second half. That's Montana-Weber State. That's it. Okay, if you want to watch football, and we're a football starving country here, the only thing you can have is football on. It's the only game. That's unbelievable exposure. And even though the Austin P. Montana State game is going to overlap the first, I don't know, probably quarter and a half or so, they kick off at 6 o'clock, 2 hours before the Grizzlies and the Wildcats. So they will be, probably middle of the third quarter would be my guess. Early third quarter maybe by the time Montana-Weber State kicks off. It doesn't really matter because everybody who's going to be watching that game will be dialed into it on the stream. Nobody on the television. Everybody's just going to be coming over from the Northern Iowa James Madison game, the leftovers there, watching this game, and it's the only game on all of TV in the country. I mean, that's unbelievable. That's great real estate, as they say. That's water. That's lakeside real estate to have that game for all four of those schools on a Friday night. That is really maybe one of the undertold benefits of the quarterfinals specifically, because this is the week that nothing's happening in college football. Nothing. I mean, okay, Army-Navy, sure, I get it, but you understand what I'm saying. I mean, even last weekend seems slim, right? Because there's 10 championship football games going on. But they still, there's plenty of football, right? Great games, by the way, last week. But one, really, the Big 12 championship game. But nonetheless, fun to watch. But this weekend, what am I going to do? Friday, Saturday, I got nothing. Well, this is what you got to do. Quarterfinals of the FCS. So I think it's worth watching. And I think having a night game is fantastic. It's certainly great exposure. And I think it's fun, man. I like building up to the evening. Now, I'm more of a night guy, okay, admittedly. I'm not getting up at 4:30 a.m. I got some doctor friends out there. I got some lawyer friends out there. They're up at 4 a.m. They're headed to the gym. You want to have a good, fun life like that, you go ahead. Let me sleep in. And by the way, I got the kids trained on that whole deal as well. Thank you very much. I worked long and hard to ensure that my children stay in bed. Okay? Stay in bed. I will come and get you mid-morning. Okay? So 8 p.m. works great for me. I'm into that. I'm all over that. What it's worth. One man's opinion. Stutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Let's talk a little bit of college football, FBS style, the Bulls. I got in front of me the entire bowl list, all of them sitting right here. Now, this has been such a weird year because Christmas and New Year's Day are on Wednesdays, man, right in the middle of the week. Now, was it about 4 years ago or something like this? They played the semifinals, 1 versus 4 and 2 versus 3 in the FBS on New Year's Eve. If that's the dumbest thing I could ever imagine, just obnoxiously stupid to do that. They didn't do it 3 years ago, David tells me. Okay. I understand why, because this is the way that the dates worked out in a different day in New Year's. And so stop that. Don't be foolish. It doesn't matter what the scenario is. Do not play the semifinals for the national championship on New Year's Eve when everybody and their mother is wearing glitter and weird green hats and glasses and they're out and being obnoxious. Okay? Don't do that. Okay? We got too much at stake here to have our concentration torn away from us because we're busy trying to plan where we're going to be when the clock strikes midnight. Okay? We got better things to do than that. Play it on New Year's Day, or this I'm fine with. Play it on a Saturday that's not even close to New Year's. Saturday the 28th. They got 4 games on the 28th. Good games, by the way, in the main. All of them ranked matchups with the exception of Iowa State. Iowa State plays Notre Dame in the Camping World Bowl, and Penn State plays Memphis. Memphis is the team that got into one of the New Year's Six bowls from the mid-majors, as it were, the group of 5 teams. Memphis and Penn State. Obviously, everybody's going to be on Penn State. That's in the Cotton Bowl, by the way. And then in the evening, the Peach Bowl, Oklahoma versus LSU. And then, cannot wait for this football game. the Fiesta Bowl, Clemson and Ohio State on Saturday night. Saturday, I guess, afternoon, as it were. No, it will be Saturday night, 4 o'clock Eastern time, so 2 o'clock in the afternoon for Oklahoma LSU, and then the primetime game, 6 p.m., Ohio State versus Clemson. Those are going to be great games, and especially 2 unbeatens in that first semifinal. Fantastic. Now, here's the thing. If you've listened to this show for any amount of time, if you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you know that I don't even believe there has ever been an actual national champion in the FBS. Never happened. You know that I think that this playoff thing is a bunch of garbage, to say it in the FCC regulated way that I have to here on the radio. Okay? That is all true. It also doesn't mean that it's still not incredibly fun, that I still don't love every single bowl game from the Makers Wanted Bahamas Bowl right up into the, quote, national champion. Just because I think it's a farce, just because I think it's a joke that the powers that be haven't made this into a proper playoff like what we have at the FCS level, doesn't mean that I don't think that it's interesting or that it's not enjoyable or that a matchup in any game, in any scenario between 2 unbeaten football teams like Clemson and Ohio State isn't going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great to watch. It's going to be hugely dramatic. It should just be happening, I don't know, right now. This should be happening now. I mean, it is unbelievable the teams that are not playing in this. I mean, Alabama, they shouldn't be there. They don't deserve to be there. But do you think if Alabama was in, I don't know, an 8 or a 12-team playoff, that people wouldn't still be very intrigued and interested to see what would happen and the result of a football game that they might end up playing in? Utah, Oregon, okay, the Pac-12, every Pac-12 champion, which in this case the Oregon Ducks, would be in automatically. It's crazy that this doesn't happen. And it's just, I mean, it's a win-win-win across the board. Don't talk to me about the regular season. It's such an asinine and unfounded argument about how much better the regular season is. And if you expand the playoff, it's not as good. It's better. It's better. Because it means that if you happen to lose on the first day of the year against another nationally ranked opponent, your season isn't over, okay, in that respect. So I don't want to hear about all that. You put more seats at the table, you get a bigger buffet, it's a better event. You want to eat by yourself and vote on this thing? Be my guest. You want to eat with 3 other friends? That's okay. It's a nice dinner. You want to get everybody together and have yourself some fun? Get a proper playoff going. That said, I can't wait for Oklahoma, LSU, and Clemson, Ohio State. It's going to be great. Those are your Saturday, December 28th games. On actual New Year's Day, which is a Wednesday this year, you got them all. The Outback Bowl, the Citrus Bowl, and the Rose Bowl, as well as the Sugar Bowl. Now, I was surprised about this. Oregon is the number 6 team in the nation. They are going to be playing Wisconsin in the in the Cotton Bowl. No, 0 for 2. The Rose Bowl. That's how it works. Big Ten, Pac-12, the Rose Bowl. Oregon, Wisconsin in Pasadena, 3 o'clock kickoff on ESPN in the Rose Bowl. Now, I love this matchup. I'm glad it's these 2 teams. I am, in part, a Wisconsin guy, so I'm happy that the Badgers are there. I think it's crazy that Penn State isn't in this game. Crazy to me that Penn State is not in this football game. Wisconsin lost to Ohio State twice. Look, everybody's lost to Ohio State. That's not the end of the world. But they are now a 3-loss team because they also lost to Illinois. Okay, and Illinois was better this year than a lot of people thought. But Penn State as a 2-loss team, just because they did not play in their conference championship game, because, they're on the same side of that as Ohio State, that they would not be selected to be in this game is surprising to me. And I think it's a huge trap game because not only are they not playing in the Rose Bowl, they are playing in the Cotton Bowl, which is great, but against Memphis, which to them is probably not great. And how many times have we seen the Group of 5 team win in the New Year's 6 game for 2 reasons? 1, because they're really good, and Memphis is an outstanding football team. And 2, because the Power 5 team that thought that they were going to have maybe national championship playoff aspirations is all of a sudden going against a team they wouldn't even play in a regular season football game. And they think, And what do you need to know to assess bowl games, FBS bowl games? All you need to know is who wants to be there. Not about who's better, not about matchups, not even really about coaching. It's about which team is motivated and happy to be playing in the game that they're in. And if one team is excited about it, which the Group of 5 team is always excited, Memphis is going to be up and ready to rock and roll with the Penn State Nittany Lions. But can Coach Franklin get Penn State, who believes that it was snubbed, that it should be playing in the Rose Bowl against Oregon? I mean, look, man, the Rose Bowl against Oregon, if you are in the Big Ten, is such a step up from the Cotton Bowl against Memphis. It just is. And it's not a slight against Memphis. We're talking about one of the longest traditions in football, period, the Rose Bowl between the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. That's right. It's the granddaddy of them all. And so this one, I have some trepidation about Penn State. And then people will say if Penn State loses to Memphis, we'll see they shouldn't have been in the Rose Bowl. No, that's not the point at all. That doesn't prove anything. It just proves that they were either not as good as Memphis, maybe Memphis is better than you think, or also that they weren't really ready to go, that they weren't completely engaged in that football game. I think there's a real chance Memphis jumps up and gets Penn State because of the situation that landed Penn State. The night game there, by the way, in the All-State Sugar Bowl, Georgia-Baylor. Of the New Year's 6 bowl games, this is the game that just doesn't do it. I'm sorry, man. It just doesn't do it. Like, Georgia got whipped by LSU, straight whipped by LSU. And they are a good football team who is just simply not at the level of the best teams in the country. And I think the fact that they're number 5 is inaccurate. They also lost to South Carolina, okay? South Carolina, they're just not very good. I mean, they're just an okay team. If you are a nationally elite football team, if you're a top 10, you don't lose that game. And look, you can talk to me all day long about any given Saturday. You can give me any, all this, any football game that you might have. But Georgia's undefeated, thinks that they are going to be going against Alabama or LSU in the SEC championship game. By the way, they did go to the SEC championship game. They say are going to make a run at a national championship, and you lose to South Carolina? No. That can't happen. What did you say? South Carolina did make a bowl against Florida? Is that right? Okay, 4-8. Yes, not against Florida. They're 4-8. Right. One of those wins against Georgia. I mean, that's terrible. Terrible for Georgia in that scenario. So I'm not really into that. And by the way, Baylor on the other side, how can I put it? I don't really root for Baylor anymore. Okay? Like, is that too much? I don't really root for Baylor anymore. Now, they're, what they've done this season, very impressive. And they gave Oklahoma everything. I mean, that was a great game, went to overtime. So, from the football standpoint and all that, and I'm not trying to, make the kids that are there now pay for the sins of preceding coaches and all that. I just don't really root for Baylor. Okay? So, Baylor, Georgia, doesn't really do it for me. Alabama, Michigan? Give me all that. Give me all that you got. In the Citrus Bowl? Who would have thought that the Citrus Bowl was going to be just the clash of the Titans, right, between Michigan and Alabama? Now, I understand, okay, Michigan, they're just sort of what they are. They're never quite as good as you want them to be, right? Well, of course, you're Ohio State. In which case, they're exactly as good as you want. They're good enough that it matters to them, and they think that they have a chance, and then they find out they got no chance when they play the Buckeyes. And Harbaugh, I mean, right? This is going to be the year. Urban Meyer's out. Ryan Day, first-time head coach. Harbaugh's finally going to figure out No. You missed the first extra point on the first touchdown, and that is the kiss of death. But anyway, they're playing Alabama, and Alabama, without Tua, all of a sudden becomes a very intriguing football game. And also Minnesota and Auburn, and that does it for me too, because I like Auburn. I'm very interested to see what P.J. Fleck and the Minnesota Golden Gophers do when they're legitimately in the Outback Bowl. Really good game, a great bowl game to be in. Remember, P.J. Fleck was the head coach at Western Michigan when Western Michigan was the group of 5 entrant into the playoffs. I believe they played and lost, but lost very close to Auburn. I got to go back and remember if that's in fact what it is. Was it Wisconsin? Okay, they lost to Wisconsin. Because Auburn lost, maybe it was UCF. But Minnesota going against Auburn, 18 versus 12, that's also going to be a great football game. By the way, if you're wondering, the last game on the docket, now we have the national championship. It's Monday, the 13th of January. That's something else that hasn't really been paid too much attention to. It's fully 2 weeks. In fact, more than 2 weeks now between the semifinals and the national championship. And it used to be, remember when there was just one game in the BCS and there was fully like a month off between the last game? And some conferences didn't have a conference championship game. So if you won your conference and made it into the national championship game, you could have like 4 weeks, like 33, 38 days off between games, which is crazy. I mean, it's just, it delivered some really bad football, okay? Because you do lose something over the course of a month that you don't play a game. Well, now these teams just played their last game last Saturday. They're going to play again on the 28th of December. So they get about, 2.5, 3 weeks. And then it's another 2 more weeks before they play on Monday the 13th. By the way, the FCS National Championship game is Saturday the 11th, I believe. The 11th of January. I mean, it is way out there down in Frisco, Texas. So there's a long way to go between bowl games, between semifinals and national championships. It's a long wait, and in some cases it may be good, and in some cases not very good. And I guess you just got to figure out how to navigate it if you're a coach or your team in that position. If you are in that position, no, good for you. One of the last two standing, and that's pretty impressive. Stu Tell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We'll take a break. Coming up here in about just under 10 minutes from now, Jay Hill, the head coach of the Weber State Wildcats, going to join us. Weber State hosting the University of Montana, 8 o'clock Mountain Standard Time on ESPN2 Friday night. We will talk to him about his team getting ready and facing the Montana Grizzlies for a second time this season. December, what month it is? It's also winter prep month at Shine Auto Detailing. The roads, salts, and sands wreak havoc on the paint and finish of your ride. Protect your car or truck from the harsh winter elements by having a premium exterior detail, which includes a ceramic coating final finish. When spring comes around, simply drive through the car wash and it will look like it's been freshly waxed. If you care about your ride, protect it from the winter. This week, save $50 if you make your appointment today with Shine Auto Detailing. Call to schedule or search online. Just search Auto Detailing in Missoula and pick the one with over 100 5-star reviews. Schedule online at shineautodetailing.net. Get your car clean. Get it protected. Shine Auto Detailing.
Not all gift cards are created equal. The Montana Club gift card comes with more handcrafted breakfast, lunch, and dinner favorites than any other local card. Home-style breakfasts, perfectly grilled Angus steaks, piled high sandwiches, expertly mixed cocktails, local craft beers, and much, much more. This year, give Montana made. Buy in-store or at montanaclub.com. Give $100 in gift cards and get a $10 gift card free. It's easy. Happy holidays from everyone at your Montana Club.
Hey, Colter Nuanez from Tutel Nuanez. You need a great place for a Christmas gift. I got a spot for you. Aspen Sound in Missoula. They got all the hookups for everything you could possibly need for your vehicles. What are some of the sweet things you got going on down there, Tom?
Thanks, Colter. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto have sure been popular this year for safety and convenience. You can do text messaging, maps, pretty much everything you need, phone calls, music, everything right from the touch of your radio. We also have remote car starters, as you know, and window tint. Lots of goodies at a great price. Come on down and see us.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
There's a saying, opportunity never knocks twice. When you're ready to take advantage of your next opportunity, look to your local bank. Opportunity Bank of Montana. Opportunity Bank offers options for mortgage loans, small business loans, equipment financing, agriculture, and more. Our experienced team can provide solutions to help you welcome your next big opportunity. There's nothing like the feeling of progress. So let's get started today. Come see us at your local Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
The Hip Holiday Market is back, celebrating its 11th year. Support Lowell students and teachers while shopping for great holiday gifts from over 50 local artists at Lowell Elementary School. Saturday, December 14th from 10 till 4. Enjoy live music, tasty treats from their renowned bake sale, the Big Sky Grub Truck, prize drawings, a visit from Santa, and all kinds of holiday cheer. It's the 11th annual Hip Holiday Market on 14th from 10 till 4 at Lowell Elementary, 1215 Phillips Street. The Hip Holiday Market is back.
Kiwanis basketball is open now through December 18th. Kiwanis basketball gives middle school boys and girls an opportunity to compete on the basketball court in an environment that is fun and promotes good sportsmanship. It is a free program that is supported through the fundraising efforts of the Kiwanis Club of Missoula. Visit MissoulaKiwanis.com for info and to register.
Last May, Ten Spoon Winery partnered with the Historical Museum with Hello to Old Missoula, Missoula's History Through Art, an event where attendees voted on their favorite piece of art, which would become the next Ten Spoon wine label. Votes are counted, and Megan Odell's piece depicting the 1990s Roxy Theater fire was the winner. Now you can drink wine for history, as Ten Spoon is dedicating a portion from every bottle of Roxy Fire wine sold to the Historical Museum. Find it now at local retailers or call 406-549-8703.
Jay Hill, head coach of the Weber State Wildcats, joining us here hopefully in just a couple of minutes. It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you'd like to listen to this show at a time that isn't 4 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, go to the podcast. The podcast available anytime, anywhere, and on any platform, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. It's the Tutel Nuanez podcast, and it is presented by the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. We appreciate them for that. Also want to remind everybody the new episode of FCS Speculators, a betting podcast, going to be out tomorrow. We'll be breaking down all the games. In fact, Brian Reeves, who was on with us in the last hour, the voice of the Austin Peay Governors football team, going to join us on that podcast as well. So tune in for that. Looking forward to talking with Jay Hill, and we'll get him in here as we're able as they finish up practice there in Ogden. But I just want to take you back to the game in Missoula, the Weber State Montana game on November the 16th. Okay, this is the second to last game of the season, of the regular season. And it's less than a month ago. It will still be less than a month between games when these two teams match up on Friday night. Montana got out to the very early lead because of a punt that went into the middle section of the east stands. Okay? And Samori Toure scored on a 10-yard pass from Dalton Snead. Now, there's this thought that at that point the avalanche was on, but it wasn't. There was still some mistakes. He had the blocked punt, the dropped punt, and everything else that happened in there. Weber State actually scored next. Had a field goal, and it was 7-3 with 1:30 left in the first quarter. And then on a two-play, 81-yard drive, Dalton Snead hit Samori Toure on the first of two slants. You know, he was hitting that slant in the middle where nobody was really home, and scored a 79-yard touchdown before the end of the quarter. Then followed that up with Marcus Knight scoring just 2 minutes into the second quarter, and it was 21-3, which it was until half, and then got out two more scores in the second half. And again, at that point, after that third touchdown, several guys injured and out for Weber State, and it just simply was not going their way, and they weren't able to cover. They did score two late touchdowns. Again, I don't think those are all that consequential. Here's what is consequential. I think Jay Hill and Weber State have been looking forward to this football game and the potential of this. Jay Hill said it in his post-game press conference after that Grizz-Montana football game, and he also alluded to it during the reveal, during the bracket reveal. He said, hey, man, we win a game, which they did last week, and we will have an opportunity if Montana wins to play the Grizz again, which an opportunity of redemption I think is significant, is important. Weber State playing, again, a good Kennesaw State team that is a triple option team is always a tough matchup. They get this 26-20 win over a team that was an 11-win team. I mean, that's a huge win. And so that's outstanding for them, and it's going to be a great game Friday night. So let's go now to the Rangish Brothers RV phone line. We are joined by the head coach of the Weber State Wildcats, Jay Hill. Coach, thanks once again for being on with us. I know it's a short week. You got a ton of work that you're doing down there getting ready for this, so we really appreciate it. How are you?
We're doing great. Yeah, just in good preparation, like you said.
Yeah, no doubt. And on a short week like this, how much benefit is there the fact that you already played this team less than a month ago when it comes to maybe the scout, some of the preparation, some of the film study? Can you compress that because you've played already?
Well, yeah, I think we can feel comfortable about knowing what they like to do, but they're the same way, right? I don't see there's any advantage one team over the other, but it does help us feel like at least we're prepared and have an understanding of what's going on.
Right. Jay, obviously in the game in Missoula, nothing really went your way in that football game. Some funky errors and then a couple of injuries that were significant as well, and it just sort of got away for the first 3 quarters of that. I know, though, that this is an opportunity that you see this for your team to play this Grizzly team again, and it's obviously a quarterfinal playoff game as if you need more motivation. But how do you prepare your guys for this team, given that you played and how it went the first time around less than a month ago?
Well, it's football, right? And we played that game that week, and then they turned around the very next week and did the same thing to Montana State. And the reality is you better be ready to play each week, because when you're playing the elite teams, you can't make the mistakes we made. And you can't handle business like we did and think the results are going to be any different. They won't be. So, but we've been there before. We've had, games where you don't play great, and then the very next week you play your best game. So that's what we're hoping for.
When you've looked at your team here down the stretch and playing some really good, teams on down the way, and obviously Kennesaw State last week, what do you like about where your team is? You've been great all season long, but especially now into December football.
Well, last week was a huge game for us, I believe, because we played, in my opinion, one of the best teams that wasn't seeded. They've proven that over the last 4 years. They've won 40-some games in the last 4 years and have been a quarterfinal team a couple times. I mean, they're a great team. I think they're as good right now as they've been with that new quarterback they got running that offense. They picked things up big time in the last week with that guy. So we're battle-tested. We know that. We've been in some wars this year. We played as many top 10 teams this year as anybody in the country, and we're battle-tested, and we know what Montana's all about. Now we just got to go out and put it on the field and really execute on game day, and that's what we did not do last time.
It's interesting at the FCS level. I think most coaches are excited to be able to be on an ESPN platform and have a nationally televised game, but it's also funky that it's going to be on a Friday night, not even a Saturday night. What do you think about just sort of the give and take of that and playing now a night game, a late night game, frankly, for your quarterfinal?
Well, I'm okay with it. We've actually done it the last 2 years. We played James Madison Friday night 2 years ago, and then last year we played Maine Friday night. So this is not something that's unusual to this football team. So I don't mind it. All eyes will be on us. There's nothing else going on football-wise on Friday, so I'm actually kind of excited about it.
Jay Hill joining us. He's the head coach of the Weber State Wildcats. Weber State, an outstanding win last week over Kennesaw State to get into the quarterfinal. They host Montana Friday night, 8 p.m. And, Coach, when it comes to the matchup in this game and just scheming it up, when you see what a team did the first time you played against them, you assume that they're going to change up, some things, but how much stuff do you try and keep or do you try and change when you're going against a team that's now obviously very familiar?
Well, I mean, you got to have your little wrinkle and you got to have your tweaks, but Montana's where they're at because they do what they do and they do it very well. So, and we're going to get their base stuff. We know it. They're very good at what they do. I don't see them changing a lot, but they'll definitely have a wrinkle or two that's new for this game.
Jake Constantine has been a guy who's been, I think, playing, maybe better than people even think or really realize over the course of the back part of this season. What have you seen out of your quarterback that says, hey, we're happy to have this guy back here. He's going to get it done for us?
Well, he's a veteran guy. I mean, he's been there, done that. Last year he went on a stretch of 6 or 7 games where he was completing the ball for 72% of his passes, and he's had similar stretches this year where, there's times where he looks like one of the better quarterbacks in the Big Sky for sure. And we got to have him play that way. If he plays that way on Friday night, we'll like the outcome. We need him to have a great game against the Grizz, and they obviously do some things that cause you fits. We need to take advantage of the things that we feel we have in our throw game and in the run.
Last thing for you here, Coach, but, I think one of the obvious strengths of your team is your defense and specifically your defensive line, and you got a bunch of guys that are all conference players on that. How excited are they to be able not just to play in a quarterfinal game, but to play in a quarterfinal game against Montana and have an opportunity to sort of control another chapter in this rivalry in the game that they've played again?
Well, I think it's huge, and it's big for these guys because they win this game, and this is a big game for us. It'll be the first time we get to the semifinals. It's already the winningest senior class in school history. This defensive line is really the heart and soul of our team, and you got to give Montana credit. I thought they did a great job last game of just kind of eliminating them and putting the stress elsewhere. I thought they did a good job of that, and we need these guys to step up and have a big game. And no matter what Montana does, we need these guys to influence the outcome of this game.
Well, Coach, we certainly appreciate you taking the time again on a short week like this. As always, we enjoy talking with you. Best of luck on Friday night. Really looking forward to this. It's going to be a great football game. Thanks so much.
Yep. Can't wait.
Jay Hill, head coach of the Weber State Wildcats. We appreciate Jay doing it live, after practice here on a Tuesday. That's really good of him. Doesn't have to do it, but does come on and talk with us, and we appreciate it. And I think, look, it's true. A couple of things out of that conversation. Football isn't a game that's repetitive, right? The way one game goes, you can reset the thing and play it 100 times, and it's never going to go the same way. And it's interesting because you can have teams that are just outmatched, right? And Team A is going to beat Team B 99 times out of 100 and all that kind of thing. But when you talk about two really good football teams, which Montana and Weber State clearly are, when one team just gets the better of you, just hammers you, it isn't a demonstration that, this team is 20 points, 30 points, whatever, better than this team. It's a demonstration, especially in those moments, that one team maybe had an advantage in some respect and also was ready to go. And also, football games, you watch enough football, you see every single game takes on a certain personality. It takes on a certain story and feel to it. And Montana and Weber State, first time around, it was Montana's day. First of all, give the Grizzlies a ton of credit. They were locked and loaded. They were ready to go. Jay Hill said, they really sort of mitigated what was a great strength of our team in the defensive line in a lot of ways with what they did. But also, they were the hammer to the Weber State nail. They turn around the next week, and as he said, it was the exact opposite in Bozeman. And they were the nail. And I don't think that Montana is 6 scores or whatever it is, 5 scores worse than Montana State. And I don't think that Montana is 3 scores, 4 scores better than Weber State. I think each game was played and there was an outcome that wasn't what you thought it would be and a game that went very differently from what you would have expected. But maybe that's just on your expectation. But when you rewind this thing and play it again, some teams are bad matchups for other teams. Coulter thinks that Montana is a bad matchup for Weber State. Bad as in Weber State's going to struggle with the Grizzlies because of what they do well and where they do it well, and maybe that's some of the weaknesses of the Weber State team. I also think, though, that this is a team that is going to be lit up on Friday night. I expect both teams to, in fact. And it's going to be a lot of fun to see what happens. And for once, is there going to be a close game that the Grizzlies are going to play in? Is that ever going to happen this entire year, or is it just going to be 2 touchdowns or more, win or lose? If it's going to happen, it should happen in this game. Of course, I said that when they played the first time, and then, of course, I said that when they played Montana State, and neither were further from the truth. Or they're just blowouts in both directions. So I would love, just as a fan, just what a 1-1 score. Could it be 7 points? If it was 7 points, no fingernails left. I mean, it's just exciting, right? Even that big of a margin. Why is it always got to be 14, 15, or 35? Unbelievable. Anyhow, Grizz game on Friday.
Cat game Friday, quarterfinals of the FCS. A good time of year. Want to remind everybody, Friday, Nutella Nuanez show live from the Rockin' R Bar in Bozeman, leading right up to kickoff. Coming into town, going over to Bozeman to watch the game. In Bozeman to watch the game, come on downtown, come to the Rockin' R Bar. Have yourself a beverage, get yourself some dinner. Come say hi to us. We'll have some swag for you. Give it all away. We'll have ourselves a good time getting ready for, a doubleheader, a staggered doubleheader of State of Montana quarterfinal football. Boys and girls, thanks so much for being with us. Or thanks to Jay Hill and to Brian Reeves for joining us on the show today. We appreciate it very much. We'll look forward to being back with you tomorrow evening, as always. Yes, ride around in the sleigh. That's a good thing as well. And yeah, we'll talk a little more about this sheet of paper right here, all the bowl games. No, David's on this one. We'll get that going for you, too. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
You'll go down in history.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate